So the brain. This is what everybody always wants to talk about when we talk about the nervous system, because the brain is really important for us. Other animals, they may have less well-developed brains. They may have just nerve ganglia instead of brains. For us, the human brain, we have different parts of the brain are going to be responsible for different things. You can divide the brain up into 4 regions: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the diencephalon, and the brainstem. And I tend to think about the brain in the, the role it would play in a zombie apocalypse. Because, important information that just gets stuck in your head and you'll never forget it. Like, you guys know when zombies come, you have to destroy the brain, right? That's pretty standard. If there's nothing else everybody in this class knows, I'm pretty sure it's how to kill a zombie. So I want to get to how the brain may cause zombies to act the way they do and why. Because the different parts of the brain are responsible for that. The cerebrum. Those are the foldy bits on the top. It's muscle control, learning, emotion, memory, and perception. Remembering who you are. This part, think about zombie, right? They don't have much in the way of memory. Their perception's kind of distorted. Definitely not integrating and remembering things, learning. And think about the gait of a zombie, sort of muscle control's not too terribly there. They have a lot of tics to them. So this is the part of the brain in the zombie apocalypse where it's basically gone. This is the part that no longer functions. So the cerebrum has a lot going on for it, just not for a zombie. The cerebellum, on the other hand, down here, now we're underneath the foldy bits. This is going to be for balance, learning, and motor skills. Probably still functions a bit in a zombie. I mean, you see zombies sort of ambling about. They have some motor control. But their balance is off. They stumble a lot, depending on the video you're watching. I'm talking like Romero zombies. So we've got cerebellum controlling basically who you are and your memories, what makes you you. And your cerebellum is controlling your movement and your balance. Now we're getting into the real meat here. As we delve deeper into the brain, we hit what's called the diencephalon. This is where sensory information is integrated. Sensory information comes in. It's responsible for homeostasis and regulating the pituitary gland. Remember that pituitary gland is going to control the growth hormones. So kind of important part of the brain. It's integrating sensory input. Zombies, they got a pretty good idea of what's going on around them. As we've seen from The Walking Dead, they can hear things. They know what's going on. They head towards sound. So you'd assume that that diencephalon in a zombie is still functional. So we got the, excuse me, the cerebrum and the cerebellum. We got the diencephalon. And then finally, we have the brainstem. This controls reflexes, peripheral vision, breathing, heart rate, unconscious muscle movements, reactions. Now, depending on the type of zombie, they may still have that, they may not. They may be actually dead. Or they may just be functioning in a way that is broadly completely animalistic, missing those higher brain functions of the cerebrum and the cerebellum. There have been several cases, getting away from real life, several cases in humans where you look at somebody and you say they're brain dead. When somebody is brain dead, their brain stem may still be functional. They are still breathing. Their heart is still pumping. But their cerebrum and cerebellum are no longer functional. They're atrophied. They're falling apart. That person is no longer who they were. They're literally just a breathing hunk of meat. That's what we're talking about with brain death. Now, the brain exists in 2 states. Asleep and aroused. And there's no in between. You're either asleep or you're aroused, the end. During sleep, you are receiving external stimuli, but you are not processing them. So basically, you're still a deep sleep, you're still feeling things, but your brain doesn't actually consider them to be pain or any sort of other recognition of them. That's why anesthetics work, general anesthetic works. Because you're unconscious, you are in a sleep state. So your brain's not processing the damage done to your body. This is an active state for the brain. It's not that the brain shuts down during sleep. It is very active during sleep. Some animals, especially cetaceans and dolphins, cetaceans and I forget what dolphins are a subclass. They only use half their brain at a time. So half their brain is asleep and half their brain is awake. You can't do that. That'd be awesome if you could, but you can't. What they end up doing is, and they need to stay, keep half their brain awake at any given point so they can be aware of their surroundings for predators, but also so they can continue to breathe because they have to go up to the surface regularly to get air. It's a really cool adaptation among these mammals. Yes? Yep. Well, only half their brain sleeps at a time. So half of them is all, they're half awake.
What would humans be capable of if we could do that?
No, it's not. No, but basically we'd be capable of, and sometimes I think you guys are capable of it because I swear some of you are asleep during class, but still actively like writing something down. Like, does that make sense? You're not actually processing it, but you're still doing it. That's what it would be like. Sleep and arousal are controlled by what's known as the biological clock. In your brain, you have a central region that controls basically when cycles occur. This is controlled by a structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN. It's going to use information from the environment in order to reset your clock. And as we just went through daylight savings, this is sort of what your body had to go through. You are picking up on cues that say it's nighttime, it's daytime, it's time to sleep, it's time to be awake. If you are in a dark place for a long time, you get tired. If you're in a bright place, you stay more awake. Light is a major determinant factor for humans in resetting our clock because our natural rhythm is not 24 hours, which is super weird. It's like 26 hours. If you were to, I forget exactly how long it is, but basically, if you were to take somebody and put them into a room that was completely the same amount of light all the time, they end up on a completely different schedule than 24 hours. It becomes, I think, a 26-hour schedule. Yes?
Didn't there used to be, like, it was like 5 phases sleeping, and it was really common, like, before the Industrial Revolution, where people would sleep for 4 hours and then wake up for 2 and then sleep for 4 hours again?
Yes, people...
It ended up being like almost a
20-something hour, yeah. Basically, there's been some studies into like napping, that where if you were to take like an hour and a half nap, then an hour and a half nap every so many hours, you just keep going. It's weird the way the human body is set. But we use light to determine when we are going to be awake and be asleep. Your internal clock is reset by that light. So when it gets darker during winter, you're going to find yourself tired more often. Emotions are controlled by the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the thalamus. All of these are located right along the brainstem. Now, emotions cause physiological reactions. Again, you've probably all noted that at some point, right? Your life, you get sad, you feel something. Your brain your chemistry changes. Hormones might get released in order to cause something to occur. This is going to be important because you create memories associated with certain chemical reactions. So something happens, and your memories then allow you to prime yourself for dealing with that situation later. So that thalamus, you're going to release hormones that will cause some sort of change to occur. If you remember something frightening, you think of something scary, you start to get physiological reactions. Your heart rate increases. We've talked about these with the endocrine system. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing's faster. You release, your blood begins to break down glycogen in order to release glucose so you can get quick energy. All of this happens because of the memories that are stored in your brain saying, get ready for a fight. You don't actually have to fight. You just have to have the memory of it. And that's something that humans have that other animals may not have as well. That ability to use our memories to drive a faster reaction for future. This is what leads to the fight or flight response, which we talked about in the endocrine system. We have these emotional triggers that prepare us to either fight or to run away. One way that we can create these sort of these pathways, to get desired outcomes, is by tricking ourselves using treats. It's not always just bad things like scary memories. There are good things in your life, right? There are things that make you happy, and then you want to do those things again because you were happy at the time. Do you remember a time you were happy? I know, it's so long ago. If you do things that increase your chances of survival, you release what's known as dopamine. This is the body's reward system. This is basically what most drugs act on. L-Dopa. So when you do something that enhances survival, if you eat something wonderful, if you mate, it feels pretty good. Dopamine is released. Your body gets this pleasant sensation that it wants to experience again. So you do that thing that enhances your survival again, and you get more dopamine, and it's awesome. It makes you feel good. It reinforces the act of survival. So of course, once we figured this out, we're like, what if we gave ourselves artificial dopamine? Sure enough, it makes you feel really good. But if you keep giving yourselves drugs that artificially enhance the dopamine process pathway, what happens is your body becomes immune to it. It changes that pathway so that even a steady stream of dopamine will not cause any pleasure. Kind of defeats the purpose of, that whole survival thing. Yes? Can you undo it? It will take, in many cases, it is permanent. But you can eventually, given time, I know there are other medical treatments, it can be undone. Your body can get back to, if not where it was, a different pathway will form because your brain's kind of resilient. Still, it's probably best not to try. So there we go. The brain. It's kind of cool. It's adapted to enhance your survival by either tricking itself into saying, this is really nice, I want to have more, or by telling your body, quick, change yourself entirely based on this traumatic experience you've had in the past, and avoid it in the future. Questions or concerns?